Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutmann to begin today.
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions. I observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe
and have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss, and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured.
Why?
Was a mentally unstable individual.
This shotgun is the primary murder weapon. On it he etched a number of carvings, including "End to the Torment," "Better Off This Way," and "My ELF Weapon." Alexis had been hearing voices and believed he was being bombarded by microwaves, something naval authorities knew about.
There are multiple indicators that Alexis held a delusional belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low frequency, or ELF, electromagnetic waves.
And in his computer files, the FBI found this.
A document retrieved from the electronic media stated, quote, "Ultra-low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, that is what has driven me to this."
And so on what should have been a routine day, Alexis killed 12 people: mothers, fathers, sons, daughters.
Diane, they never had a chance, and still no answers as to why so many red flags were missed.
As you say, so many red flags. Thank you, Pierre.
People.
This also includes her pelvic body.
I'd like to leave these flyers with you all as well.
Highly perverted, involving many combinations of sensory and motor manipulation of my mind and body, and of the people around me. This includes many different types of zaps to varying degrees to the genitals, butt, anus, and the entire pelvic area. This also includes many kinds of movements, such as the rocking, swaying, jolting, vibrating, and shaking of my entire body or various body parts, specifically in a sexual way. The severe vibration is a highly noxious stimuli and is very intolerable. They sometimes do pulses or throbbing sensations on the genitals too, etc. There are also body movements such as rocking my pelvic area back and forth, repeated rubbing sensations, the sensation of something going up my crotch and in and out, etc. They also often force vaginal discharges and zap my genitals at the same time. These sexual assaults are present throughout the day, every day, and anytime I am awakened at night, every night. They range from mild to extreme, but usually involve daily and nightly continuous assaults for the past.
Submitted a paper to you. And there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City, alluding to the same thing.
You do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War. You can call it a eugenics program even. But also walk them to their, they want to see if they can, hyper game theory. How do you, they want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death. And so you can call it a eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control a brain? Most people don't believe that. Oh, you can't control me. I have my own free will.
V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting, disgusting, disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa.
They use these monarch-style torture programs, like it's based on sex and trauma. So they're gonna traumatize you. They're gonna use your libido to get back at you, and
this technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal.
Experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes.
Be my guess that this person developed delusional disorder. This is a paranoid schizophrenia. But first of all, nobody develops paranoid schizophrenia in the 50s, in their 50s. This is, you know, if you haven't developed it by 30, it's not. Then this technology exists. These nefarious programs exist. And it's hard to imagine for a person that why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
it's cognitive warfare.
Exactly, it's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds,
personalities,
and it's like Chinese torture. I mean, this. Yeah. Okay. So,
all is do this.
It's already being used. I mean,
if you talk to the victims, the TIs, one of the worst breakdowns, and it's pretty common. I think I can say the word simulated rape. And forced orgasm.
You can say anything you want. This is the internet.
Okay. And so simulated orgasms and rape is extremely common, and especially violating for women. They complain about that torture breakdown the most.
that you've been in justice?
You mean as far as the Justice Department feeling me?
Well, in terms of your being a victim.
You mean what I'm feeling?
Yeah, explain a little bit to me how you perceive yourself as being.
I have actual photographs of burns on my body. When I went to my doctor, the response was, "How do I know you didn't do that to yourself? How do you even address that?" I've passed 2 psychological evaluations, not 1 but 2. The one physician said, "You're mentally sound as a bell." He said, "I don't have any idea what's going on with you." When I go to sleep, when I go to try to sleep, I feel like I'm being lit up like a Christmas tree. I feel every cell in my body just bouncing out of my body. I can't even describe it. I get electric shock of my rectum. I get electric shock up my nose. I've woken up with burns on the end of my tongue. I've had burns on the palms of both of my hands. I vibrate. I can barely hold a piece of paper without quivering. Does that answer your question?
I'm trying to find what's the source of the...
The source are these exotic weapons. They talk about in 2976, but if you would pass it, it might give other communities the courage to do the same thing and show our Defense Department we are not the enemy. We are not to be attacked. We are not terrorists. Most of us are defenseless women.
Thought insertion, memory manipulation, memory insertion. You feel like your mind and your body is not yours, it's just being controlled by some asshole. Your emotions, everything, and you would see that, street theater, noise campaigns, Voice to Skull, they do a pretty good job of intertwining everything. But to an outsider's point of view, they're just gonna see you as fucking crazy, but I'm here to tell you it's happening. And this program is a slow death torture program. Why are we on this program? I still don't know. I have no idea. A lot of smear campaigns, and I'm losing my train of thought right now because I'm just so. You start telling your story to people or whatever, they're not gonna believe you. It's either they're gonna gaslight you or whatever. It's and I'm losing my train of thought right now because I'm just so freaking sleep deprived. I'm probably gonna make more videos, but no, I'm not. I mean, I'm gonna see how it goes with my fiance, and I'll keep you guys posted. And I'm looking for employment in it, but it's so hard to find employment right now. It's so hard to find a job. And if you do get a job, they mob you. Workplace mobbing, it's common. I know that it's hard to get a job, but once you get a job, you get mobbed. And the problem is, it's so sophisticated that you start telling your story to people. Go to you do the same shit over and over. Whatever accomplish. I'm just going on tangents right now. I have no clear outline. All I know is that I gotta make this video. I gotta send it out because I've been waiting for the right moment to make a video on this topic. But there's never gonna be a right moment. Yeah. All I can say that whoever organization is behind this, or whatever criminal governmental organization, it's very, very uniform. Every country you go to, it's the same tactics. That's all I can say. It's very uniform. It's the same tactics everywhere you go. You know, whatever country you go to, you do the same shit over and over. You know, whatever accomplishments you have, they'll try and discredit you at everything. Humiliation too. Humiliation. Rituals, whatever. Embarrassment. I have no idea why they do what they do. It's just whatever. And these thoughts, these fucking disgusting ass thoughts. And if you're a target individual, you know what I'm talking about these thoughts that are being fucking inserted into your head. It's disgusting. And it's horrible. I don't know. I have nothing else to say. Probably when I
who is charged with a quadruple homicide in Butler Township, Ohio, that you can pull for your writing analysis. Key delusional beliefs. He believed he was a targeted I can't give you the full manifesto itself, but I can walk you through what's in it and what kinds of delusions it shows. Here's a structured summary based on court-described excerpts and reporting. Number 1. Overall context. Stephen Marlowe is accused of a quadruple homicide in Butler Township, Ohio, August 2022. In the months before the shootings, he wrote a long manifesto describing what he believed was happening to him mentally and spiritually. And the Dayton Daily Lash News. Psychologists and the court treat this manifesto as evidence of entrenched delusional beliefs, not of anything real. Number 2. Core delusional themes. A. Global terror network and targeted individual. In the manifesto, he claims he is the victim of a global terror network that attacks people using advanced psychological telepathic methods. Dayton Daily News. Key elements of that belief. He sees himself as a targeted individual, someone singled out for mind control abuse. X, formerly Twitter, ordinary people around him, neighbors, possibly co-workers, etc., are reinterpreted as part of this network. B. Telepathic ventriloquism. This is the phrase you picked up on. In the manifesto and related descriptions, he says attackers use telepathic ventriloquism to project voices and thoughts into his mind. Dayton Daily News. He believes his thoughts are not private. Others can speak through him, like a ventriloquist using a dummy. The voices can manipulate his emotions, impulses, and decisions. This fits clinical patterns of thought insertion, belief that thoughts are being put into your mind by an outside force, auditory hallucinations reframed as telepathy, delusions of control, believing one's actions or feelings are being controlled by others. C. Neighbors as sleeper agents. He fixates on people near his parents' home. He claims that some neighbors are part of the terror network and effectively sleeper agents used to harass or attack him telepathically. Dayton Daily News. The victims of the shooting, who had no normal conflict-type relationship with him, get cast in his mind as key perpetrators in this invisible conspiracy. The stream of abuse and psychological impact. He describes his experience as a constant, inescapable stream of verbal and emotional abuse through the voices. He writes that it is impossible to just ignore the voices and that there is no defense, no stopping it. Dayton Daily News. He links this to the collapse of his trading career, ruined relationships, Here's a summary of the known facts about how Stephen Marlowe allegedly carried out the killings of the victims, as publicly reported. Some details remain unclear or under investigation. What we do know, the incident occurred on August 5th, 2022 in the Butler Township near Dayton, Ohio. Dates and victims were Sarah Anderson, age 41, Dayton Daily News. Her daughter, Kayla Anderson, age 15, Dayton Daily News. Clyde Knox, age 82, Dayton Daily News. His wife, Sally Knox, 78, Dayton Daily News. Marlowe lived nearby with his parents on Haverstraw Avenue, and the victims were his neighbours. Dayton Daily News. Police found the victims fatally shot at multiple crime scenes in a residential area. ABC News. In video evidence introduced in court, one scene shows Marlowe walking up with a gun in his hand towards Sarah Anderson, who was on the phone, then shooting her. He walked into the home where Kayla Anderson was and shot her. He then exited via the garage and fired a second shot at Sarah while she was on the ground. WIO TV7 and W8YO Radio. After the shootings, Marlowe fled the state. He was later captured in Kansas. Dayton Daily News. What is not fully clear, the exact motive remains uncertain, though Marlowe's delusional belief system, voices, mind control conspiracies, is heavily referenced in court records. Dayton Daily News. The precise method of how he gained access to each home, whether forced entry, unlocked door, etc., is not fully publicly detailed in the sources I found. The type model of gun used has not been clearly disclosed in the publicly available summary articles. Whether the homes were entered via doors, garages, or other entry points, in all cases, is not fully spelled out beyond the garage exit referenced in one video. Implications for your narrative. This case illustrates a neighbour-to-neighbour attack rather than a random public shooting. Proximity and familiarity played a role, or at least the geographic closeness. The video evidence, garage exit, home entry, suggests he had access to the property, or at least was able to approach the victim's home with a weapon, which may support planning rather than purely impulsive.
I could not have asked for a better family. What you cannot comprehend is that we have been attacked by this weapon our entire lives, and the attack against me personally is one of the most vicious attacks a human being has ever faced. I have tolerated the most inhumane torture in hopes that the FBI and CIA would come to my defense, but they have failed to come to my aid. My only hope is that you come to understand what has happened here. When the world realizes what has happened, there will be justice, but I cannot sit by and be a victim any longer, and I refuse to sit by and do nothing while my nieces and nephews and the rest of my family are operated on with mind control. Our thoughts are not private. It is disgusting and it is cruel. I will be launching the first counterattack against mind control in human history. I want to be very clear, this will not be an active shooting event. I will be executing some of the people responsible for activating shooters. If I happen to survive, please visit me in prison, if only to see the same man you have always known, rather than the victim of some mental disorder that does not exist. What you may not understand is that I will gladly die to expose this, and I will gladly die to help one other victim discover the truth of what has happened. If I can help another targeted individual fight back against telepathy, then the sacrifice will be well worth it. To any TIs who read this, understand that your attackers use the form of ventriloquism I describe in the paper to move your thoughts, but your thoughts can also move their mouths. To my friends in Chicago, Lexington, Dayton, and all over the world, get this email out to everyone you know. The most horrific weapon ever made is being used on human beings, and if you ever learn the truth, you will understand what I did here to protect myself and my family. Get this out to other TIs, other voice hearers, so the world has a chance to fight back. To my family, especially my nieces and nephews, I want you to understand that what I do here, I do for your future, and hope that you can live a life free of mind control. I love you guys.
Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government.
Government agencies like DARPA have developed directed energy weapons that use electromagnetic frequencies to damage a target remotely. So hypothetically, 100% hypothetically, if there was some kind of black budget operation like MKUltra going on, they wouldn't snatch you up on the street. They wouldn't have to. With DARPA technology, you could be a test subject in the comfort of your own home.
Psychotronics is let me pick these words very carefully, is the long range modification or manipulation of behavior by electronic, specifically radio means. In other words, you use electromagnetic energy, radio transmissions, to affect human behavior at a distance.
It sounds like something straight out of a 1980 sci-fi movie, but the technology I'm about to speak about is real. Targeted individuals claim to hear voices, clicks, static, or other audio inside of their head. They believe this is the result of a psychotronic weapon that they refer to as voice-to-skull technology, or V2K. Now, I'm not saying that voice-to-skull technology is secretly being used on anyone, but the technology to achieve V2K is possible and has been for a very long time. In 1961, Alan H. Frey conducted experiments in which he was able to transmit sounds into people's heads. Sounds that bypassed the ears and were inaudible to anyone else. It's called the microwave auditory effect, or the Frey effect. It involves a human perception of sounds induced by pulsed or modulated radio frequencies. To put it simply, the intended sounds are able to be generated inside a human head without the need of any electronic receiver. In his experiments, test subjects were able to hear pulsed microwave radiation, even from hundreds of feet away. The subjects heard a buzz, clicking, hiss, or knocking, not with their ears, all inside of their own head. Some describe the experience similar to the way you'd hear your own voice inside of your mind. But Alan Frey took this a step further. He discovered that if he played with the transmitter parameters, he could even induce the quote, perception of severe buffeting of the head. In other words, the sensation of being violently struck. He could also get test subjects to feel a sensation of pins and needles, all remotely. Keep in mind that this was all possible in the early 1960s, and the idea of weaponizing this effect and electromagnetic frequencies in general has not only evolved, but become a priority, specifically for military purposes. They're called direct.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
Satanic.
Organized stalking, electronic harassment, microwave torture, V2K abuse, and I'm asking you to help us end this crime against humanity, which has impacted men, women, children all around the world.
Hi, I'm Wan from Malaysia. My family are targeted individuals. We are victims of cyber torture. And I will not give up. I will fight to the end.
And I'm a victim of organized
we need
stalking,
this to stop.
Electronic
That's it.
harassment. And I'm speaking to you on International Targeted Individual Day. I live in the US, in Illinois, and am a victim of organized
We need
stalking,
this to stop.
electronic
That's it.
harassment, microwave torture,
I've been targeted for 9 years.
24/7.
Please become more aware of this crime and those that the crime is being committed against. We need your support and help in ending this crime.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown. I'm a targeted individual who is living in New Zealand, but my targeting began in California. I'm an American citizen, and the targeting continues in New Zealand. I'm making this video in remembrance of Targeted Individual Day, our third annual Targeted Individual Day. And I'm asking that every honest-hearted human being open their eyes to a crime.
My name is Jeanette. I am 56 years old and I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I am a victim of covert electronic harassment and torture. I am a targeted individual.
Hello.
Why? Because it hurts. I need help. I need you guys to come get me. It's brutally painful. I have a house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Satanic
Evaluations
must be stopped. Many people's lives at risk. They affect men, women, and children. Many have died already.
The Pentagon, the child porn on the Pentagon servers.
Come on,
bro. Supposedly they found more child porn on the Pentagon servers than they found on any servers.
Could there be
at high levels across a range of government agencies? Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Others also work.
Two-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening in the general evil?
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking these digital footprints. They're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks. If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
the CIA raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?
Has come under investigation for links to the proliferation of graphic material. Called Project Flicker, some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD-affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us to discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swann. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who are being recognized as the ones who are perpetrating this.
So Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is the co-author to this bill. She said this, quote, the notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head-on. Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work, is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a Department of Defense office or it's the offices at RT America, wherever you go into an office, you do not have the right to simply use the technology within that office space however you want. And you certainly don't have the right to use it in a criminal manner. So essentially, this bill is trying to
is a shameful disgrace, and one we must fight head-on, Spanberger said in a statement. According to child pornography watchdog Internet Crimes Against Children Child Online Protective Services, the Defense Department network consistently ranks in the top tier of Internet service providers for trafficking child pornography. It ranked 19th